It is possible for you to get pro level lenses for less. And in this video, I'm gonna be showing you the best Sony E-mount lenses for your landscape photography, from cheapest to most expensive, covering every single focal distance and type of landscape photography, all that coming up. Hey, what's up guys? My name's David Johnson, and on the Landscape Photography University channel, we create videos to help you master your landscape photography. So if you're into that, hit the subscribe button below. It really helps the channel out a lot. The first lens that we're gonna cover is for those ultra wide angle situations. This is the Rokinon 12mm f2 lens. This thing is tiny and it's great at a budget price. This used to be the only wide angle lens that I used for my landscape photography, and I was able to use it to book clients like REI, Fujifilm, and it is a great lens to use. While this is a prime lens and it is for APS-C crop sensors for Sony E-mounts like the Sony a6000 series cameras, this is a great lens to use because with a 12mm format, it's more like an 18mm when you pair it with a crop lens if you're doing the math right. With the wide aperture of f2, this is a great lens for night photography and extremely low light photography as well. So you can really use this any time of day with any landscape photography situation. Best of all, it comes in at a really cheap price for Sony E-mounts. This one that I'm holding in my hand right here is a manual focus only. You see the focus ring here, but they have created a autofocus version that is a little bit more expensive for you to buy on Amazon. Next up is for those macro and small scene photography situations, and this one is a little bit more expensive than the Rokinon we just looked at, but this is the Lensbaby Velvet 56mm f 1.6. This is a really good lens for macro photography because it has that massive aperture that is a fast lens, but also blurs out a lot of the background, making it really clean on your subject and your background as well. And for the background, it's the most important part of any macro photograph. Now, this lens, I've joked, is the most frustrating but most fun lens to use for small scene and macros because of the velvet effect that it actually puts on the background of your photos. Now, the wider aperture you use with this, the more velvet effect it puts into the photo, so you can definitely decrease that with a smaller aperture, but this is kind of a specialty lens in that sense. This is also a manual focus lens, but if you want another macro option, I have another macro option a little bit later in this video paired with a telephoto option. Next up, we're looking at a wide angle lens, and the G Master lenses for Sony E-mount cameras are super expensive, but if you get something like the Tamron 17-28 f2.8 lens, it's a great option to have for those wide angle scenes, and it provides just as much quality as a G Master does too, and you're gonna save hundreds of dollars using this Tamron versus the G Master from Sony. Now, I like this lens and I use a lot of Tamron lenses. I'm not sponsored by them, but I think they give the best quality for a cheaper sticker price than some of those high dollar lenses like Sony G Master lenses. And for quality, this is a great zoom wide angle lens to use all the way from 17mm to 28. So you're gonna get a really good wide range of zoom with this. And the 2.8 wide aperture allows you to also use this for night and low light photography as well. So this is the wide angle option for those full frame cameras if you're shooting with something like a A7R model of these Sony cameras for your landscape photography. This is the lens that I would go for those situations. Now, in just a second, I'm gonna get to some telephoto options for your landscape photography, but if you're liking any of these lenses and you wanna check them out a little bit more, I have the links to the Amazon listings in the pinned comment down below, so definitely check those out. Now, for telephoto, I think one of the lenses that you have to have in your bag as a landscape photographer is a 70-200 lens. And the lens that I choose for that is the Sony 70-200 f4. Now, you may be thinking, okay, you just talked about G Master and Sony lenses being more expensive, But actually the f4 is a great value versus the f2.8 that Sony has, because as a landscape photographer, how often are you actually going to f2.8 with a 70-200 lens? It saves you weight in your bag because it is a lighter lens than the f2.8, and it saves you hundreds of dollars because this lens is a lot cheaper than the 2.8 version. So this Sony f4 of the 70-200 is a great option for a telephoto lens. Now, what about a super telephoto lens? For that, we're going back to Tamron. This is the Tamron 150-500 f5 to 6.7 lens. And when we're talking about super telephoto, this is going to be the best option for you because it's much cheaper than something like a 100-400 or a 200-600, something like that, or just a prime 600 lens. This is going to give you a lot more reach with their zoom in it from 150 to 500. Plus, it gives you a lot more money in your wallet because it's much cheaper than any of the Sony versions of this camera. So when we're talking about the difference in this camera versus something like a 70-200, there are a lot of times that you want a lot more reach in your photography and the 70-200 just can't get it for you. That's where one of these comes into play for your landscape photography, just to get that little bit of extra reach for things further away and to pick out different parts of a landscape that make it so beautiful. So if any of these lenses are not in your bag, I highly recommend them for the Sony E-mount cameras because they give you a lot of bang for your buck, and you can probably buy a couple of them versus just one Sony G-Master lens and get more lenses in your bag, or just buy one and save you a little bit more money. If you want another video that's gonna help you out, If you want another video that's gonna help out your landscape photography a lot, click on this video showing up right here, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode.